You will never go there. Not really. Less than 5% of the ocean floor has ever been seen by human eyes. You live on a planet covered mostly by water, and yet the deepest parts of that water remain more mysterious to you than the surface of the moon. You've probably imagined it. Pure blackness, crushing silence, a world with no sun. But the real answer is far deeper than just darkness. 14 centuries ago, a man standing in the middle of the desert, hundreds of miles from any coastline, described something about the deep sea that he had no way of knowing through observation alone. The Quran speaks of darkness within the depths of a vast ocean, covered by wave upon wave, and above that, dark clouds. Layers of darkness, one stacked on top of another. So deep, the verse says, that if a person held out their own hand, they would barely be able to see it. Stop and sit with that for a second. This was revealed to a society with no submarines, no diving equipment, no scientific instruments capable of measuring light at depth. And yet the description it gives matches something that took modern science centuries to actually confirm. Here's where the story gets interesting. In the 1930s, an American naturalist named William Beebe became one of the first humans to descend into the deep ocean in a steel sphere called the bathysphere. He went down further than anyone before him, and he recorded what he saw in real time. At a certain depth, sunlight simply stopped behaving the way it does at the surface. Beebe described the water around him turning a deep, almost otherworldly blue, then slowly fading into complete black, long before he reached the ocean floor. Not a single layer of darkness, a gradual stacking of them, each one darker than the last. Why does this happen? Light entering the ocean doesn't travel in one uniform sheet. It separates. Red light disappears first, swallowed within the first few meters, then orange, then yellow. Each color absorbed at a different depth, like the ocean is filtering sunlight one wavelength at a time. By around 200 meters, you reach what oceanographers call the edge of the photic zone, the point past which there isn't enough light left for plants to grow. Below that is the twilight zone, where only the faintest blue glow survives. And below that, true darkness. The kind that doesn't change whether your eyes are open or closed. Does that sound like one dark ocean, or several darknesses layered on top of each other? Now add another detail most people overlook entirely. The Quran's description doesn't stop at darkness within the sea. It mentions waves above waves and clouds above that. Modern oceanography has a name for the phenomenon the verse seems to be describing beneath the surface: internal waves. You're familiar with waves on the surface of the ocean, the kind you see from a beach, but underwater, where layers of water of different temperature and salinity meet, entire waves form and roll along those boundaries, completely invisible from above. Oceanographer Walter Monk spent much of his career studying these internal waves and how they move enormous volumes of water without ever breaking the surface. A wave on top of a wave, hidden entirely from view. This is not something you could observe by simply looking at the ocean from a boat. You would need to understand water density, temperature layering, and light physics, concepts that wouldn't be formally studied for well over 1,000 years after this description was first given. So how do you make sense of that? You don't have to take a leap of faith to find this remarkable. You can sit with the plain facts. A description was given in a time and place with no access to diving technology, and it lines up with discoveries that required steel spheres, pressure gauges, and oceanographic instruments to confirm. The French explorer Jacques Cousteau, one of the most famous ocean researchers of the 20th century, spent decades documenting exactly how alien the deep sea truly is compared to anything visible from land. Cousteau often described the deep ocean as another planet entirely, hidden just beneath the waves you can see. Another planet, hidden in plain sight. That phrase captures something important. Most of what shapes your understanding of the world comes from what's visible to you, the surface, the part you can reach, touch, and measure with your own senses. But the Quran consistently draws attention to what lies beyond direct human observation, the things you cannot verify simply by looking. This matters beyond the ocean itself. Think about how much of your own life operates the same way. The parts of your struggles, your fears, your private battles that no one else can see. From the outside, your life might look like a calm surface, sunlight, clear water. But you know there are layers underneath that no one observes, currents moving things you can't always explain, darkness that exists quietly beneath whatever you show the world. The Quran doesn't just describe the ocean as deep, it describes it as layered, hidden, and difficult to fully perceive without going further than the surface allows. Maybe that's also true of you. There's something grounding in realizing that the deepest, most hidden parts of creation were never meant to be fully visible to human eyes. Not because they don't matter, because some truths only reveal themselves to those who go looking, who study, who descend past what's comfortable and visible. The ocean didn't owe early humanity an explanation of its inner structure, and yet that structure was described anyway in a verse meant to be reflected on by every generation that came after, including the generation that eventually built the instruments to verify it. This is part of why so many people who study this revisit one thought again and again. Whoever revealed this knowledge clearly was not limited by what could be seen from a desert horizon. You weren't there in the 7th century. You can't verify history through memory, but you can verify the science. You can read about Beebe's bathysphere descent, about Munk's internal wave research, about how light actually behaves underwater, and place those facts beside a description written long before any of it could be tested. Then you can ask yourself the only question that really matters. Where did that knowledge come from? Maybe the deep ocean isn't just water and darkness and pressure. Maybe it's a quiet reminder that creation holds details too precise to be coincidence, hidden in places humanity wouldn't reach for over 1,000 years. You will never personally go there, not to the deepest trench, not to the true ocean floor. But you don't have to. The depths already spoke for themselves long before anyone had the tools to listen.